Okay, so the goal of today's meeting is to kind of give an entire overview of the Unit 3 assignment. So I'll be taking you through the assignment itself, some possible tools that you can use to help you along the way, as well as some things to think about as you're creating your PSAs. But before I get into any of that, I do want to preface this meeting by quickly just talking about Unit 2. I have been receiving a lot of frantic emails about their Unit 2 essays and the grades. I want to say that argumentative writing is not easy, and I do not expect anyone to have made their first draft of this perfect. With that being said, there are a lot of people that are going to have to revise this, and that is totally fine. And that's actually a good thing because you are learning from these revisions, right? Take those comments, learn from them. Most people have the foundation of their paper. They just need to make quick little changes, or they're missing key elements that they need to incorporate. And it's really not going to take that long to incorporate those key elements. So don't be freaked out if you have a 1 out of 100. That doesn't mean that you just had like the most awful essay ever. It just means that there are still some things that you need to do in order for it to be an effective argument. So as you go over your comments for those, if you have questions, reach out to me. Anyone who does have one, you have to work with Sienna as well. So she can answer a lot of those questions for you too. But again, don't get down on yourself for this essay. Again, this is not an easy kind of writing. There's a lot of factors that go into this. So just stick with it. I promise you everything's going to be fine in the end. Any questions about Unit 2? Okay, I've released a grace for one class, but I'm probably going to release a grace for the other class. I'm not quite done with the other class yet, but you will be getting those soon if you haven't already. Okay, so I'm going to start by going through some of the documents in our Unit 3 important information. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share with you and kind of take you through some of those. I have made some changes as well, so I want to share those with you too. Okay, so here you have the schedule. Obviously, you can check that out. Here we have the prompt, which is something that we're going to be going through. This is something I briefly went through in our last Zoom meeting. Let me zoom in here for you guys. Okay, basically, we already went over this, but what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating 4 separate PSA posters, but they should all be about the same topic. Okay, all be making the same claim. They just all need to be different from each other. And later on, I'll talk about how you can make them different. Once you make those 4 posters, 2 of them will be due on Sunday, right? You will write an essay about your design choices for those PSAs. Okay, so when you get down here, you can see exactly what I'm looking for when you are writing about your PSAs, right? So first you'll start with some background information, right? Remind the audience what your topic is, how you decided what claim to make, and how you determined your target audience. Depending on how you approach these PSAs, your audience might change per PSA. If that's the case, you're probably going to tell us who your audience is in each PSA that you talk about. Okay, if you're using the same target audience, then you'll put that with your background information. If you have different audiences for each PSA, make note of that when you're talking about your design choices for each PSA, because you're probably going to change your designs based off of who your audience is. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so design choices for each PSA. You're going to take us through each PSA one at a time, and you're going to answer each of these questions, right? How did you choose the images for your visual argument? What other sorts of decisions did you make as you worked through the mock-ups? Like what kind of wording did you use? Why did you use the color choices that you used? Why did you even use the font and font sizes that you did, right? Each design choice you make should have some sort of purpose, right? Did you make the font big so that people could recognize it right away? Or did you make it small because you felt like it wasn't as important to say the little bit of information, right? Tell us why you've made each design choice, right? Did you use red because it's a color that stands out? Did you use white because you have a dark background and you wanted there to be more contrast, right? Tell us about those design choices. Why did you make the choices that you made? Okay, and then you'll talk about how those design choices appeal to the values of their audience, right? So did you use kind of like a cartoonish image because you were appealing to children, right? That could be a reason why you or how you're appealing to that audience, right? Did you use statistics because you know that this type of audience values statistics, right? Tell us why or how you're appealing to that specific audience. And then what did you try to accomplish in terms of visual impact, emphasis, coherence, organization, right? Like this is talking about like placement of everything, right? Did you put the image in the center and then put the wording at the bottom so that they see the image first and then they bring their eyes down to the wording, right? Why did you do the placements that you made? Okay, things like that. So that'll probably be about 1 paragraph per PSA. Okay. Once you take us through each PSA, so you should have 4 paragraphs on that, you will write a paragraph discussing the difference between your visual arguments, which are your PSAs, and your written arguments, which is your Unit 2 essay, right? How are these different or the same from each other, right? Like in what ways are you communicating differently in your visual arguments versus your written arguments, right? So for example, I might say something like, you know, it's a lot easier to show people what this problem is through images than it is to write about it, something like that. Okay, so tell me about those similarities and differences with a visual versus written argument. Again, just 1 paragraph on that. Once you take us through all those design choices and the difference between the 2 arguments, you are going to make an argument here. You are going to choose 1 PSA that you feel like is the most effective out of all of them. Okay. With that PSA, you need to argue why it is stronger than the other one. You need to provide evidence of why it is the strongest. You need to convince us that this is the best PSA, right? I should walk away from this paper feeling like, hey, you know what, this person is right. They really convinced me that this PSA is better than all the other ones because of all of these reasons. Okay, so point out all of the strengths of that PSA that make it better than the other ones. In order to make a good argument, you probably also need to identify the weaknesses in the other 3 PSAs. So spend another paragraph talking about why the other 3 are not as effective. What about them made you not choose those PSAs? Okay, so that'll be probably about 2 detailed paragraphs there. Okay, any questions about the content here? Again, there's not really any research or anything like that going on. It's entirely based off of design. You're basically reflecting on your design here throughout this entire essay. Okay, so some technicalities. Again, you need to include your 4 visual mockups. You should be probably putting them into the Word document. That way they're all just together. If you're having trouble doing that, I do have a video that shows you how to do that. But if you're having trouble doing that, you can just upload it as a separate document. Just do 2 attachments. That way I can see the images as I read your papers, because that's part of your grade is me being able to see those 4. Again, you're not being graded off of how awesome the images look. You're just being graded on whether you created 4 different PSAs or not. Okay, again, you're trying to limit to 15 words or less. Remember, this is a visual argument. You should be making this argument through images. Okay, 3 to 4 full pages minimum of writing. If you're answering all of the questions in detail, it'll probably be closer to 4 full pages if you're answering the questions like really well. Most A papers are around that because they're really detailed. So they're usually around like 4 or 5 pages when they answer those questions. All images must be cited using MLA format. If it's not an image that you came up with on your own, like that you created yourself, or, you know, like clip art or something like that, then you need to cite it. And I will kind of take you through that a little bit today in one of the documents that I'm going to go through. Basic MLA format and same late policy. Okay. Any questions about the prompt, essay, assignment so far? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of that one. I do have this PSA outline. If you just download this and fill it out, you should have a pretty complete essay here, because it has all of the questions that I'm looking for you to answer in pretty much the like a very chronological order. So as long as you're answering all of these questions, you should be getting a passing grade on this, right? The more detailed you answer these, the better grade the closer you are going to get to an A. Okay, so as long as you fill this out, answer all the questions, you should be good to go. Okay, this is a little handy dandy handout here. This is a Unit 3 fact sheet. So frequently asked questions. Some ones that I get asked a lot. So yes, you can use your own photography. You could set them up as a story, but this one I get asked a lot, how am I going to make these different from each other? You can do this a couple of different ways. You can use a different target audience for each PSA, right? Because again, you should be appealing to your audience, right? And appealing to their needs. So based off of who your audience is, you might have to make adjustments to your PSAs to better fit their needs. Okay, so you can do it that way. You could use different persuasive strategies like ethos, pathos, logos, or different motivators like fear, worry, or hope. I know like some people were mentioning, I saw a lot of people taking kind of like the darker route, like, oh, I want to use black and white imagery and like show the struggle. Okay, it's like, yeah, you can do that. And you can also make a second PSA that does the exact opposite of that, like shows like what could happen when the solution comes into play, right? Like, let's try to aim for happiness, right? So you can use, compare them side by side and make them different that way too, by looking at opposite ends of the spectrum. And you could also choose different actions that you want your audience to take. Okay, my recommendation would be to really look at PSAs as models. There's a website on one of the resource guides that I have on here, and just kind of like browsing through different PSAs, you'll see like, ooh, I like what they did there. Let me try to emulate that same sort of design choice with my PSA. I know with this PSA analysis, the ones that I've graded so far, a lot of people are getting good ideas for how some strategies that they would like to use as well. So looking at PSAs and looking at how people present arguments in different ways is helpful, because again, you'll see different kind of design choices that you like, and you can play around with those same design choices within your own PSAs. Okay, you are turning in all 4 mockups. Okay, you will identify which one is the best, right? Usually if you just label them PSA 1, 2, 3, 4, number 3 is my favorite, blah, 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 that's good enough. Okay. How do I limit myself to such a small amount of text per poster? Again, letting your images speak is the best way to do that, right? So be very particular with what images that you choose, right? You want the images to do a lot of the talking for you. Okay, and this is one that I get a lot. How do I cite images? If I would say that, what do people get marked down the most with for this essay is that they don't cite their images. You have to cite your images, okay? If you pull it from any site, you're gonna use this format here that you see here, but I specifically wanna show you how to do it with Canva, because a lot of people struggle with finding the information for the pictures, the images information, like the creator and the name and things like that. So I'm gonna quickly show you how to find that information so that you can use that. Because basically what you do for an image is you do the last name and first name of the creator, the title of the image, the website you got it from, the URL, and the access date. pretty straightforward. It's almost like a traditional citation, right? Author, title, publisher, URL, access date. Okay, very similar. So let me go ahead and jump on Canva here real quick. Okay, so this is my Canva page. I haven't created anything recently, but let's see, I have like this image here. If you hover over the recently used images and you go to these three little dots here and click on that, this is the title, Sea Animals Climate Change Poster. That's the title of the image, and it's by Marketplace Designers. Okay, so that's how you find both the name of the image. Let's see if it'll actually take me to an image. So it doesn't, it looks like that's the image itself. So I think you can even go down here to photos, and you can even do it by photo. So if I go to here, click on the three things, mother and her children crossing a road on their way to school in the morning, that's the title of the image, and it is by Newman Studio. Okay, so I would put Newman Studio as the creator, then I would do the title, the URL is canva.com, access date, we'll say is like today. Okay, so pretty simple to do that, but if you don't know how to find that information, it can be difficult. So again, I highly recommend this site. I think it's super user-friendly. You have a bunch of options. They even have, I give you ideas on how to create your poster. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, I highly recommend it. Okay. And then again, where can I find images? Canva. And there's, you can look on the library website, 53.com. There's a bunch of different places that you can find images. Any questions with images, citing images, anything like that? Or any other frequently asked question that you would like to ask so that I can answer? Okay. The last thing that I want to take you through here is that I did make changes in the rubric. I used to just have the picture of the rubric, but now if you click on this, I give you the actual full breakdown of the rubric, right? I usually do this breakdown in an announcement. I will do it in both an announcement and have it here. So if you wanted to print it off, that you can do that as well. So it'll tell you, you know, how much each section is worth, what I'm looking for, and how you can fall into each category for those, right? Where you're probably aiming in this range. And so this will tell you how you can land in those ranges. Okay, so if you want to go through that, again, I will post this in an announcement as well, but if you want something that you can print off, it's available for you now. Okay, again, here, a bunch of useful tools that you can use, Canva. There's a core values website to help you kind of think about the values that your group has. Here's the ad council, the PSAs. If you go to this website, this has like tons and tons of PSAs that you can go through again to get ideas on how you can create, or like different ways that you can create your PSAs. You know, look at them, see what you like about them, things like that. There's so many that you can look through here. Okay. One other thing that I wanted to talk about, any questions about this unit? Sounds like it, or it looks like everyone's good with this unit so far. I haven't gotten too many questions about this one either. I have also changed our tutor interaction, right? I sent out an email about that. Like I said, there are going to be a lot of people that have to revise Unit 2. And with those revisions, you're going to have to meet with Sienna. So she's going to be very busy. So I have expanded your tutor options. You can still meet with Sienna if you can schedule with her. If you want to schedule with her, make sure that you're scheduling early on, right? Her schedule fills up quickly. If not, you have the options of the Writing Center email consultation that has at least a 3-day turnaround. So if you plan on using that, make sure you are being mindful of that turnaround time. Writing center appointments, again, you have to schedule those appointments. I would schedule those early on to make sure that you can get one, because again, they fill up really quickly as well. Or the fastest turnaround time is the 24/7 online tutoring. That usually gives you your paper within 12 hours of submitting. And this is, I would say this service is best used if you just want someone to do like a proofread of your paper to make sure that it like flows well and is using like transitions and proper grammar and things like that. So that's also an option. For each one of these though, you will have to actually submit your tutor interaction this time. Before I was having Sienna tell me who she's met with. This one is an actual assignment. Okay, so if you met with Sienna, all you're just going to say is, I met with Sienna, submit, and then I will confirm with Sienna. Any of the other 3 options, you're going to have to provide proof that you use that option, right? So if you use the email consultation, usually you can ask them for proof of tutor interaction. It's timestamped, right? So it shows me that you actually worked on it during Unit 3. Writing center appointment, you can ask for your receipt or record. Again, it should be timestamped, so it tells me that you worked on Unit 3. And then 24/7 online tutoring, that one should be timestamped as well. So screenshot them, send them in. You do that, you get your tutor interaction. Okay. Any questions about the tutor interaction? Okay, we are almost to the end, guys. We just need to revise our Unit 2, get through Unit 3, and then the final portfolio should be a cakewalk as well, right? Especially if you've already done revisions, you're pretty much just going to be writing a final reflective letter, and then we're done. Okay. If you have any questions along the way, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Okay, I am here to answer your questions.
So I have a quick question on the revision. I didn't get a chance to revise my Unit 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's like way too late to revise for that unit. But I know you mentioned that we're going to need to revise it for the final portfolio. How is that going to work? Is there going to be time, is there going to be like a certain time slot that we're going to be able to revise for that?
So how that works is, so if you miss the cutoff for revisions for a higher grade, what everyone's going to have to do is on the day that the final portfolio is due, you are going to have to turn in 3 documents. You're going to turn in your revised Unit 1 essay, your revised Unit 2 essay, and your final reflective letter. So it's not like you have to meet with Sienna to revise a Unit 1 or anything like that. You just have to make revisions, and then in your reflective letter, you're going to talk about those revisions, and they're all going to be due at the same time, okay. which is our last day of class, so May 12th.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep, yep. Any other questions? All right, guys, that's all I have for you tonight. Again, if you do end up having any other questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them, and have a good night.
Thank you. You have a good night.
Thank you.